Bloody hell. Where is this guy? He never bloody answers his door. Burn! Burn? Oh, fuck, let's go in. Whoa. What's all this? What a mansion. This surely isn't his.
Hello, Wade.
Dude, what's all this? Is that an orchestra? And the keyboard is from Bon Jovi? What's all this about? How much did all this cost? You weren't dipping into Sci-gasm's funds, were you?
Hit it, guys. Wade,
Oh, God.
we've now been together for over 60 episodes.
Oh, jeez.
And I want to let's get to it forever. I know we've had our ups and downs, like that time I flipped your coffee table, or when we went to the dominatrix, or the countless times that you've shat in my pillow, or even when your parents wouldn't let us hang out anymore and threatened to ground you if you saw me again. But we've never stopped laughing, and you've always brought me to a Cymax.
Oh, you put Sci.
I thought you'd enjoy that. We've had three-way interviews with Lawrence Krauss, Cara Santa Maria, and even a Catholic priest. Wade, I have a really important question to ask you.
Whoa, let me just stop you right there. One, we're married already. You were groomsmen at my wedding. Secondly, gay marriage isn't legal in Australia yet. So, even if we weren't already married, we couldn't anyway.
Well, that's just
How hard this was to research and try and sound genuinely like I was doing work. I don't know
Hey, you burn.
Hey, Wade, what's going on?
Not a lot, man. Not a
So, have you voted in the plebiscite yet?
lot. Yes, for our American listeners, for some silly reason, we have to vote on a plebiscite. So, can you explain what a plebiscite is to our listeners, Burn? Just so they're aware of what's happening. So,
I'll have a crack. I'm sorry to any of the constitutional lawyers out there now, but, I'll try my best. So, a plebiscite is a non-binding vote. In this case, it's a postal vote, where they send out basically a question to all of the public, and the public writes back.
a simple yes or no.
Simple yes or no question, and then the politicians can make their decision based on that. You can have a binding plebiscite, which means the yes comes back and it must go into law, or in this case, on our marriage equality one, it's a non-binding plebiscite.
Yes, which means that even if, and it's not going to happen, but even if 100% of people vote yes, it still is
The politicians
still decide. So it's kind of a pointless vote. And so far it's costed how much? $114 million so far.
Some ridiculous
of
amount
taxpayer money. So it's
to send a letter.
And it's not so much. This episode isn't about the plebiscite. The plebiscite is just: do you think same-sex couples should be able to get married? And it's just a simple yes or no. Tick yes, tick no.
And that's an opinion. And it's not about law either. Wade and I are certainly not lawyers. We know fuck all about the law on this side of things.
So we thought we'd look at the research.
What does the science say about gay marriage?
What does the research say about gay marriage? So we look at a number of ways. We look at the health of the individuals, and we also look at the impact it has on the kids.
Now, full disclosure, I voted yes on the plebiscite. I've already sent my vote in.
Yeah, I voted yes too.
So just letting all of our listeners know, if your opinion is no, that's fine. We accept your opinion. You are entitled to your opinion. That's the best thing about living in a democracy. But looking at the research, we have done our best to try and eliminate our own personal biases here.
Yeah, and as well, to our listeners as well, if they've got any kind of questions or any stays they've come across that may contradict what we said, send it in. We'll have a look at it.
Happy to listen. All right. So first area I think we were looking at is health. Health related to the LGBTIQ.
So are you talking about mental health, physical health, disease, what?
A bit of both. Now, it's kind of unfortunate we don't have that much. We've got a lot of data out there, but there's not that much data in terms of Australian LGBTIQ communities and the health associated with them. So there is a National Academies Press health outcomes survey for the US, and they found universally that gay and lesbian people are far lower than that of their heterosexual counterparts in pretty much all health outcomes. That's mental health, that's physical well-being, that's a whole lot of other things as well. And that comes from, say, stigmatization, so that's can impact on their mental health. And then you go to the other side where the prevalence of HIV is more common in, say, homosexual men. Okay. So that affects their physical health as well.
That's kind of the thing with minorities, isn't it? The health is generally less.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a pretty consistent theme through minorities. There was another study in the American Journal of Public Health, which was published with UCLA, which is a pretty good university. And they found that same-sex couples and compared them with 35,000 heterosexual people. So let me just say this again. There was 1,166 gay and lesbian people compared with 35,000 heterosexual people in a survey. Okay, so this was assessing a national survey, and they found the same thing, that generally speaking, homosexual couples have poorer health outcomes than their heterosexual counterparts.
See, I could imagine, at first glance, and some people who aren't scientifically literate would say, well, how could they be trusted with kids?
Yeah.
If their health... I understand there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, that's right.
And this is where the water gets very murky because at the moment there's a lot of stuff in the media talking about, here's a problem with same-sex marriage. Here's, no, same-sex marriage is great. It's more beneficial. And at the moment,
and
it's
these are social
really,
surveys,
really cloudy.
Long-term listeners know how we feel about social surveys and science.
Yes.
And medical science as well gets a bit iffy because we don't have that lab population of humans. And no, we shouldn't have one before anyone starts. Okay? That's borderline Hitlerish, okay?
Yeah.
You can't have a lab population of humans as much as you'd want to. Now, this study in the American Journal of Public Health was in 2013. What it actually looked at is also couples. So they found that people in relationships, married couples, consistently, whether they were straight or gay, had higher health benefits, higher health outcomes than their single counterparts.
So what you're saying is now being in a relationship with someone is healthier for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the thing is they started...
That's so true. Think about it. All the time, it's like, do you really need to eat that? And you're like, oh.
Isn't it time you went for a run?
Isn't it about time
shout out to our wives, by the way.
Yeah, who were legally able to marry.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting because this whole thing comes down to whether you like penis inside you or not.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
No,
yeah.
whether you like penis inside you or not.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose so.
It's like, well, if you don't like penis inside you and you're a female, well, then you've got to live this life. You don't have to live the life, but you live whatever life you choose. But, you've got these restrictions placed on you.
And if you do like penis inside you and you're a male, you've got the same thing going on.
Exactly.
It is a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, this study I thought was really interesting here.
Okay.
Now, listen to this. This study from 2013, so fairly recent, and it was based on a survey, found that married same-sex, gay, lesbian, and bisexual couples were significantly less distressed than their gay, lesbian, and bisexual counterparts that were not in a legally recognised relationship. So they could still be living together, but they still had lower health outcomes than those who were in a legally recognised relationship.
Yeah. That would make sense, especially the stress and everything like that of, it
is. It's quite interesting.
It's stupid, isn't it? Because here we go around telling everyone that everyone is created equal, and you have the same rights as everyone else. But if you're gay, you can't get married.
Well, that's it. And let's be honest, because obviously gay marriage is illegal, it's probably going to impact on how many people are going to get married. If it's illegal, you're less likely to do it. You're not going to get married. You can't get married. You literally can't get married.
You can have a ceremony, a celebration, but you can't legally get married.
Now, here's another study I thought was very interesting. Same journal. It was 2012, the American Journal of Public Health. And this was a study conducted between Columbia University and Brown University. Now, I should stress this study is pretty restricted. It's a small sample size. It was restricted to a specific health center in Massachusetts. But what they did is they looked at the health benefits for minority patients, say same-sex couples, in a particular area in Massachusetts before same-sex marriage was legal and after same-sex marriage was legal. Okay, so they ended up having about 1,200 patients, 1,200 sexual minority patients. So that just means gay, LGBTQI. Okay. Now, looking at that, they found that there were small but very significant health benefits as a result of same-sex marriage laws. So before the marriage laws, there were higher incidences of healthcare costs, higher incidences of hospital visits, and higher incidences of mental health care visits as well. After the marriage laws came into place, all of those factors actually dropped. There was decreases in them.
It's crazy. Like, I don't quite understand, because people going about, I know people who are against, or don't view homosexuality in the same light as what you or I do, and they say it's unnatural, but it's not. Like, there's so many species that engage in homosexual behaviour.
Pretty much every single species does. Every single animal species engages in some sort of homosexual sex.
Yeah,
one form or another.
I think it's one of the most natural things out there. But I can understand that that's so damaging to members of that community, the gay and lesbian community.
Absolutely.
Because being told that, you're unnatural, like, how's that going to make you feel? Like, it's like me saying, no, you don't love your wife. That's just what you think you do.
Yeah, that's right. That's your choice.
You're like, no, I'm pretty sure I fucking know how I feel. Thanks very much. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, you're not hungry. You're not hungry. Don't worry about it. You're not thirsty. You don't know what thirst is. You just get a little bit confused. You're
just a little bit off centre sometimes. Yeah. That's all right. You'll grow out of it.
Yeah. Like, I find it so narrow-minded and just ridiculous. It's fucking stupid that, like, someone be like, oh no. It's just like. But the other counter argument to that is, the rebuttal from people like us, is like, hang on, so you're telling us you choose to be straight?
Yeah, like, that's it. When did you exactly choose that you were heterosexual?
Yeah,
that's his.
Yeah, when did you decide? Not really into dick, so I might go this way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know.
It is, but I think it's really interesting just looking at the health aspect here. So if you actually care about the other members in your society, whether they're gay or not, there is definite health benefits associated with being in a married or a couple recognised relationship. So why wouldn't you try and help the outcomes? That's going to reduce the tax burden on you if the people are healthier because they're in lasting relationships.
Exactly. And you're reducing that, that cost down. And I don't know. I don't quite. But the thing is, though, I wonder.
The evidence is early, though. Just trying to avoid our biases again. This is early days with this evidence coming out, because if you were homosexual, it was pretty hush hush until recently as well. You didn't want to go out telling everyone.
Even now, it's considered still in some ways hush hush. Like, it's still very hush hush.
Yeah.
I just.
So the data's still coming in, but so far the data that we have got suggests that allowing same-sex marriage will actually benefit the health of thousands and thousands of people.
Interesting.
Now, what's the most common argument you hear against gay marriage?
Well, one of the things when I was younger and I first started hearing about these issues, this is many a moon ago, and this was something that I personally, I'm going to be honest with listeners, I was kind of a little bit worried about when I was a bit younger, was the effect of the same-sex marriage on the kids.
Won't somebody think of the children?
Yeah, what about the children? Everything was like, oh, geez, what about the children? And I did the research. Like,
so the kids
I recommend any of our listeners do. And
so the notion was that kids of gay couples are more likely to get bullied or picked on.
Well, I grew up in a Catholic school, and there were instances of kind of that type of behaviour.
Are you okay, man?
What's that? Like, there were instances of kids, or even just portraying feminine behaviours, being bullied. Not so much even the girls, but it's just, and that's from a pretty middle class area too. So I don't know what the other areas are like. You went to a private school.
I went to a stuck-up private school. I don't know. I remember when you're in high school, if you did something, oh, that's gay, and that was insulting. That's really gay, man. You shouldn't do that. And that was seen as
it has a negative connotation.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes complete sense. But yeah, the thing that stuck out to me in that I wouldn't say resonated, but the idea that I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's probably worth investigating, was the thing about the children. And so, yeah, I had a look at that, and because that's one thing we're talking about, we're going to make the episode because it's so topical at the moment. And this is a bit more of a serious episode. Have you noticed that?
It is. I'll try and chuck in some
jokes.
humour.
We've only had like 3 dick jokes so far.
It's a dangerous area to
Oh,
tread.
we're only 12
jokes.
minutes in. We're really sweet for the moment. Give it time. There'll be plenty of dick jokes. All right. So I found that so in regards to gay marriage and just the health outcomes, so there's a range of different things you hear on both sides. Okay? There's a range of different things. So they've found, okay, so here's an example of one of the things that the certain organisations like the Family Research Council. Does that sound...
That sounds wholesome.
That sounds wholesome, doesn't it? It sounds like they know what they're talking about. Like, yeah, well, they don't. So I looked at their page because I was like, all right, well, first thing you look at when you're looking up an issue is you've got your preconceived notions, and I find a good way, and within reason, of looking up, say, these debatable issues, is by looking at, okay, so this is my position. This is what I think the research says. I'm going to search the complete opposite thing, and I looked at 10 arguments against gay marriage, and I worked from there. And I was like, okay, so what does the research say about that? Okay, so what is, what that point there? What's the rebuttal on the side that I'm on, or I think I'm on, for that? And I find that's a good way of getting a scope. It's kind of keep you...
It's the best way to check yourself.
Yeah. And so you're continually kind of checking, and I found that I went to the Family Research Council's website, and they had on the page 10 arguments from social science. Social science.
Ugh.
You're the one with the problem with social science. Don't drag me into it. Against same-sex marriage. Okay, and they referenced a study in child development by, get this, yes, another dick joke, B.J. Ellis.
B.J. Ellis.
Yeah. I don't know.
B.J. Ellis.
B.J. Ellis. Anyway, yeah.
I reckon it wasn't. You just chucked that in. You found a study with B.J. just for this episode.
Maybe that's how I got on. I just typed in BJ.
It's not a very good study, but you're like, I have to put this in.
So I just typed
the author's BJ.
Yeah. I typed BJ into Google and just let's do an episode on same-sex marriage. So what they found was they had a look at how father absence, so a male role model, okay. So how father absence placed daughters at special risk for early sexual activity and teenage pregnancy. Now, once again, this really doesn't mention too much about gay marriage, okay? It's not about gay marriage, but the gay marriage...
it gets factored into the debate, though,
It gets factored into the debate. And so what they found, and this is something that the people who are against gay marriage draw upon, and it says here, this is a quote from the paper... consistent evidence of the effects of father absence on early sexual activity and the teenage pregnancy so there was more consistent evidence for the effects of father absence on sexual activity and teenage pregnancy than on other behaviour or mental health problems or academic achievement. Okay, so they're saying that the role of the father is more likely to impact daughters' sexual, like the early sexual activity, okay, and thus teenage pregnancy.
Yeah, okay.
So more so than it does mental health or academic achievement.
So does that mean if you got 2 dads, you're way less likely?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, couldn't get past the paywall. No, but that's a really good point, and it's something that I think you highlighted in some of your research when we were just discussing it. In the lead up to the episode. Where it's like, well, hang on. So
does that study make any reference to same-sex marriage at all? Or?
No, it doesn't, but it's used on that side.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's
it's,
classic cherry-picking, really, isn't it?
It is classic cherry-picking. So there's some other studies. So a study published in the Journal of Development Behavioural Pediatrics in 2016, okay, compared the outcomes for children aged 6 to 17 years in 95 female same-sex parented families and 95 opposite-sex parented families. Now, the study found that there were no difference in the outcomes for the children raised in by lesbian parents compared to heterosexual parents.
Okay, definitely no dads in the lesbian household.
No, definitely no dads in the lesbian household. So, once again, there's a study that just rebuttals that initial kind of what that study had found. Well, not doesn't really rebuttal it, but it says, look, people,
we don't think that this is entirely right.
Yeah, we don't think that's entirely right. Not saying you're wrong, but our evidence suggests something different.
There is a lot of mixed. I found a paper from the Review of Economics of the Household from Canada, which found that children of gay couples were only 65% as likely to graduate high school as heterosexual couples' children. Now, when you
sorry, can you
that's
just
okay.
So it better be. So what you're saying is they're less likely to finish high school.
That's right. So if you have, they're 65% as likely. So less likely to graduate from high school.
So that means there's a difference between same-sex couples, kids graduating high school, heterosexual couples, children. Now I can see anti-gay marriage people jumping on the back of that one study.
Probably. I'm not too sure. I just went straight for science. I tried to keep out of... Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, I was having a look at this study. Now, the problem with this study is that gay marriage and gay adoption is a relatively recent phenomenon. So a lot of the gay couples actually investigated in this had children that had not actually finished high school yet. So, of course, they haven't graduated.
Yeah. That's true, isn't it? Because, you look at... the kids that are graduating school now are probably about 17 to 18 years of age. Yep. In your case, 20. And 18 years, that's a long time, especially in the recent years of social development.
Well, that's it. Let's not forget that the whole gay marriage around the world only came in about 5 years ago in New Zealand first.
Yeah.
Gay marriage is still a very recent phenomenon. Now, in Australia, the argument is not whether gay people should have the right to adopt children. They already can. You can as a gay couple, you can already adopt children in Australia.
Okay.
It's whether they have the right to get married.
Okay. So I had a look at another study. It was a paper published in the American Sociological Association in 2014, and it reviewed 10 years of scientific literature on child well-being in same-sex parented families in the US. All right, so the study covered 40 original published studies, including numerous credible, methodological, sound social science studies, many of which drew on national representative data. So this is a big kind of meta-analysis, last 10 years. And as well, I could imagine it would be hard going back further than 10 years for the problems that we spoke about before. Just, people weren't as openly gay. It's kind of like the episode we did where we're talking about fetishes.
Yeah.
People are less likely to reveal personal, intimate details about what they enjoy or what their desires are, whether it be sexual or
attached to it all,
emotional or whatever. Now, the authors concluded that there was a clear consensus in the scientific literature that children raised by same-sex couples fared as well as children raised by opposite-sex couples. Now, they looked at these areas: academic performance, cognitive development, social development, psychological health, early sexual activity, and substance abuse. So, once again, you have a meta-analysis saying actually early sexual activity it doesn't really come into play.
Suggestions don't stack up.
Yeah, there might be other variables, and this is one of the issues with finding out information with psychology or social sciences. Is that there's so many variables.
There's so many
different variables. You have socioeconomic factors, a whole range of different things. Now, there are a number of holes in the data as well in regards to same-sex couples raising children, and that is that there's not much male-male data. Okay?
It's unusual for a gay male couple to adopt children.
Yes.
It's more likely than a lesbian couple.
It's more likely, and there's a larger sample size in the female-female data sets. Okay, so, and obviously, as you know, the smaller your sample size, the larger these variables have.
The less reliable your data's going to be.
The greater the influence that these variables have, or, some anomalies. So, and that's the thing. It's very kind of difficult to find conclusive results in regards to male-male parenting.
Yeah. That's interesting. Look, I found another one in the British Journal of Education, Society and Behavioural Science, which I should point out is one of those pay-to-play journals, so you can't get published unless you pay them. But that also
Yeah.
allows more free access, so you don't have a paywall to go and get into either. But
Okay.
this journal is not supported by any academic society that I could find either.
Well, okay.
Okay, so it's a journal
Alright.
that you pay to get published in. Now,
I'm going to go on a limb and say it's against gay marriage.
it's against gay marriage.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been dressing up, and this might clue off. It comes from the Catholic University of America. Okay.
Like, why would they
Now,
be deceiving us?
I don't know, but the thing I wanted to include this for is first, it's from 2014, so it is a recent one, and secondly, it was actually a large-scale study using the same data that I talked about in previous studies, and it used all of them, the National Institute of Health, like a massive national health survey. And they found this large-scale data, because a lot of the other things I've talked about have been small-scale, like the Massachusetts clinic, found that children of same-sex couples are more than twice as likely to suffer from emotional problems. Now, the thing that this study didn't fall down is it only looked at gay versus straight couples and their kids. But it neglected to actually look at divorces. So whether the couples were gay or straight was the only factor considered. It wasn't a factor whether it was a single-parent household or not. It was just whether their parent was gay or straight.
Yeah, because I've got a number of friends who whose parents were obviously originally together in a relationship, a heterosexual relationship. Divorce happens, and then one of the parties says, "Well, let's change it up a little." And not that it's really their decision; they may have had those.
May have had the urges for
May have had the urge for a while, and that's cool. Like,
one of my very close family members is gay, and I said to him, there's some people that are married, and I think they're gay. He goes, being married is not a determinant to your sexuality. And he was sort of like very, there's a lot of gay men that have gotten married out there to prove that they're not gay as well.
I know.
And they're still getting some on the
number of
side, I
people.
think was the implication of that.
I know a number of I know a number of people who have been married and now are gay.
Yeah.
And it's sad that this type of stuff has to be
that they can't, from the first place, feel open. Or
But
there's
even
bisexuals as well. Like, big up for the bisexuals,
bisexuals, the LGBTIQ
QA as well. There's a few letters in there now.
Letters in there now, okay.
Yep.
Well, you look at like Sarah Talk podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Great example.
She's awesome.
Should ever check her out if all of our listeners. She's not
Sarah
very.
Talk podcast.
She occasional science in there, but if you're into
Occasional
more
science.
social, political stuff, then absolutely go and check her out.
Yeah, she's lovely.
Now, looking at that study, the implication I sort of got from that is, well, if there's this large scale study suggests that kids that are twice as likely to suffer from emotional problems from same sex couples, but they haven't factored in divorce, then maybe divorce is more common in same-sex couples. Maybe the I don't know what you call it, the relationship stability is lower in homosexual relationships. So I started looking into that a bit as well.
Oh, okay. So you looked into like how a marriage actually works.
Yeah, I probably should have done that before I got married, to be honest.
Have you seen that scene in Zack and Miri Make a Porno where it's like where the high school hunk is arguing with his boyfriend? The one that the chick in there, the blonde lady wants to have sex with at their high school reunion, and they start arguing, and the hunk she's in love with is married, or he's recently, he's got a boyfriend. Oh, okay. Yeah, and he's recently come out, and his boyfriend's a gay porn star. and they're arguing, and what's his name? Seth Rogen?
Yeah.
He kind of looks and goes, wow, they fight just like real people. it's like, oh, jeez.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, but I guess as well, and I get this is one thing that our generation is kind of coming to terms. I feel, and once again, I may be wrong, but we're a lot more open to this, the younger generations, than are the older generations, because it's more kind of
I think it's an exposure thing as well. Could you imagine Brokeback Mountain coming out 50 years ago?
Oh, Brokeback Mountain came out. Yeah, no. That movie was crap.
Yeah?
I didn't enjoy it.
I only watched it recently, and I agree. I got about halfway through. I'm like, this is terrible.
Did you find they just complained about beans the whole time? Did you notice that? It's
No, you pointed out
any more beans. And
I'm not sure why they kept talking like that as well.
And all of a sudden they start going out in the tent. Don't get me wrong, I'm cool with it, but I'm just you guys just complained about beans, and now you're just going for it. It's
it's risky to go for it in a tent. You've been out in the wild. You're probably stinky. You've been eating beans for a while. I don't know if that'd be the first thing on my agenda as well.
Especially what they were doing in the tent.
Back to the BJ.
Okay. Bang, another dick joke.
All right. Now, I was had to look at this relationship stability.
Can I just tell you right there, we should have like a siren that goes off every time we make a dick joke in all the episodes now.
Like a foghorn.
Yeah. Like, and I was like, you're a dick. That's our word of the day. Go on, sorry.
I found this study from, get this, in 1986. So it's an old one. It was in the Journal of Personality and Social
born,
Psychology.
Represent.
Oh, yeah? Oh, I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah. Extremely ugly baby born.
Now, this journal article in 1986 examined the quality of the relationship between heterosexual married and cohabiting heterosexual couples versus gay and lesbian relationships. I thought this was interesting because it's 1986. This is pre any gay marriage. So they were only looking at gay and lesbian couples. Okay, they couldn't be married. It was legal. And then they looked at heterosexual married couples and heterosexual cohabiting couples.
Do you think it's kind of like, though, before we start, do you think it's kind of like having like a lolly jar and someone's saying, don't eat all the lollies in the lolly jar? And then you're like, I better have a lolly jar. And then that has that extra level of excitement. Where it's like, you can have as many lollies as you like from that lolly jar over there, and you're like, take 3. It's like, but you can't, if you go to someone, you can't touch the lollies.
Oh, then yeah, I really want those
And
lollies.
I really want those lollies.
Yeah, what's so special about those lollies? No, I don't. But anyway.
Yeah, but like adds a bit of kind of danger to the relationship.
I don't know, man. I've
Pretty
never
much,
really thought about it that
I
way.
just came out there and I was like, oh, I find it a bit of a turn on that gay couples can't get married.
Oh, dear.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'll stop interrupting.
Jesus Christ. Now, the interesting thing about this study from 1986 found that people in legal marriages were more likely to have greater relationship satisfaction. So that was heterosexual couples in legal marriages
Yeah, I
had
can
a
see
greater
that.
satisfaction than... Well, it could be. It depends. Is it the horse before the cart or either way? But like that sort of insinuates that not giving homosexuals the opportunity to get married could actually impact on their satisfaction with their level of relationship as well. Now, keeping on going with this general theme, there was another study from 2009 in Social Science Quarterly from the American University in DC, which examined data over 14 years, 1990 to 2004. Now, yeah, once again, the data was clearly pre-gay marriage as well. Now, basically, it had a look at the common claims that gay marriage would lead to negative effects on divorce rates, on abortion, I don't know how that works, on single mother births, and so I assume that means that gay people went, oh, I'm actually gay, sorry about impregnating you, I'm peace out, and also on children in female-headed households. Once again, not sure why that's a problem. But anyway, what they found was there was actually no difference before or after. So there was zero difference between all of those things before gay marriage and after gay marriage. Another study...
Oh my god!
I went to town on this, mate.
You can always tell the episodes that you do because it's just like studies reference the whole way through.
I really wanted to get this one right because I could see this being very polarizing, and it's a current vote as well.
It's relevant. It's relevant.
John Hopkins University Journal of Marriage and Family, having a look at specifically divorce rates. So they had a look at, are divorce rates higher in homosexual couples or heterosexual couples? Could increased homosexual rates. Now, this study didn't look at the differences between homosexual and heterosexual couples, I should point out. Just like yours didn't before. People were using it. So I don't want to be seen as using this to convenience my argument or anything like that. So I'm coming clean early. Does that make sense? You look at me all weird.
No.
So basically this study looked at divorce rates and the reason divorce rates are going up. Okay. It didn't say that there was a difference between homosexual and heterosexual. It didn't even look at that.
Good. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
It's an all-encompassing.
Yeah. So it looked at divorce rates diverging as a result of education. So as education becomes more of a thing for the rich or the upper class, as education becomes more expensive, we see divorce rates increasing because less people can afford to be educated and make informed choices on who they married. And they're more likely, the lower educated, to get someone pregnant when they're a bit younger too and jump into it.
Is that what the study says, or is that your assumption?
No, it all ties in. It does. The study does go into this. Yeah, you gave me the dirtiest look then. They're just assuming this.
I'm just like, that better be fucking backed up with evidence, that statement.
The interesting thing I thought about this study was the divorce rates was universal across all groups, whether it's immigrant groups, whether it's any other group, and coincidentally that would include groups opposed to gay marriage. So the groups that say gay marriage will increase divorce rates, their divorce rates in those groups are going up at the same rate as all the other groups as well.
So people are saying that the sanctity of marriage will be ruined like those groups. And once again, you don't want to pigeonhole someone because you don't want to say, well, you're of this nationality or you're of this whatever.
Religion or anything.
Yeah, religion or whatever. And so therefore you think this. But what you're saying is the idea in those groups that marriage is, is the sanctity of marriage will be spoiled, or the gay shouldn't be allowed to get married. Their divorce rates are going up,
just like everybody else.
Just like everyone else.
So they're ruining the sanctity of marriage.
Yeah,
it's not the gays. It's everyone who actually is married is ruining the sanctity of marriage. Straight people are ruining the sanctity of marriage.
We ruined it with Bachelor.
Now, another study...
And what's that? Rock of Love. Oh, God. What was Brett Michaels thinking?
I don't know.
It's fucking terrible.
I don't know. I can't believe you knew it.
Rock of Love?
Yeah, you've been watching way too many of these shows. Bachelorette, Bachelor.
No, I don't actually watch The Bachelor, Bachelorette. I did watch Rock of Love. That's poison. I was thinking to myself, fuck yeah, Brett Michaels. And I'm like, what is this shit? Remember Flavor Flav? He had his own show as well.
No. You watch some shithouse TV.
Oh, mate, I got into the reality TV, the MTV reality TV.
Oh, mate, that's terrible.
Oh, man, and then they had to Meet the Barkers, the Travis Barker from Blink-182.
No, I don't remember any of these shows.
Man. It was like the whole. This was the whole. It was
Your
like
parents should not have got cable TV.
It was like the Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson porno. It's like love you, and the Meet the Barkers was just that, but without like the.
12-inch dick.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, I'm looking forward to the 12.1-inch iPad coming out.
All right. Let me bring it back to this serious societal issue we've been discussing.
Apologies.
Now, in the 2007 Annual Review of Psychology, a study from UCLA again found that gay and lesbian persons were able to establish stable, long-lasting relationships that were equal in measure in love, functionality, and satisfaction to heterosexual couples. Okay, I don't think that's a revolutionary finding, particularly that gay people can actually have a good relationship.
The sad thing is though, you need to address these issues because it's like with the anti-vax movement. You need to address stupid shit, and you need to actually kind of play their game a little bit, and then just to prove them wrong, so it doesn't gain momentum, these ideologies. And
I suppose there would a few people be like, oh, okay. The reason I found this study interesting, you'll enjoy this, is that they say that some LGBTI relationships can actually be more stable because they tend to share responsibility between them rather than dividing it into your traditional husband and wife role, like the household caretaker versus the breadwinner. Generally speaking, obviously this is a gross generalization, but heterosexual relationships are more likely to have that traditional role, whereas LGBTI communities are less likely to.
Mine doesn't, mate.
Neither does mine. Neither does mine, to be honest. But if something goes wrong for one of those partners, if you're the breadwinner and you get sick and you can't do your work anymore, it's less likely that the person who is not the breadwinner is able to go out and get a job and to be able to sustain that. Yeah. Whereas in these same-sex relationships, they tend to share the responsibility more. So if something does happen to one of the partners, the other is more prepared to take on the burden.
That makes sense. And I guess as well, there's a rule, we live, I thought we lived in a progressive society. I think we do. At times that kind of brings into question. But, I guess as well with... I know, where we are at the moment with, rent and housing prices and all that type of stuff, you really need, if you want to kind of live a comfortable life, you really need two educated people to be working. And marriage is a partnership now.
I think where we are in Sydney, it's very difficult to have a house and a family without a dual income.
Yeah, yeah. And and there's certain kind of cultural things that, the gay community will do, and LGBTQI, I think that's A.
Hey, there's a few in there.
Not to diminish the importance of any of those. But even something like pink tourism, there are certain things that gay couples will do more than regular heterosexual couples because it's just the
Broadway.
Culture. Broadway, there you go. Broadway. And man, can they sing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Now, I think here's a nice, paper from 2012, which I think sums up, and it makes me feel good about all of this in the end. This was a public opinion quarterly from Georgia State University, and it started to look at the changing opinions towards same-sex marriage in the US from 1988 until 2010. Now, it says that there has been a significant social shift. Now, in 1988, there were actually very few groups in favour of same-sex marriage. Okay, now, I'm going to sound condescending as fuck here, but I'm going for it anyway. Okay, in 1988, the groups that were in support of gay marriage were those who lived in urban areas, i.e. city dwellers, which was generally where, homosexual centres are, say San Francisco or Oxford Street in Sydney. It was also people who were not affiliated with conservative or religious groups were more accepting of gay marriage, and the highly educated.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, sound condescending. Now, in 2010, those were the groups that were in favour of gay marriage. In 2010, it's actually easier to outline the groups who are against gay marriage. So there are more groups that over the years have come around to support gay marriage than are now opposed to it.
Okay.
So I think
that's a nice note to end it on. And once again, we're not trying to, as we close out this episode, Wade's final thoughts. We're not trying to sway anyone's belief. We've come clean and said, look, we've ticked yes, mainly because of what the research says. Now, if the research said otherwise and the large-scale studies proving otherwise, please send them to us. But this episode was totally designed just to present what the research actually says, or what the research we've come across says.
Yeah, I hope you, if you'd like, go back and review the episode. Check out the papers that we've quoted. They're all from recent years, except for the 1986 one. So if there's more recent data we're not aware of, these are big studies too, people. So please, if you are sitting on the fence for gay marriage, go out and inform yourself. Okay, have a look at the arguments for and against, and have a look what the science actually says.
Yeah, because that's the best way of understanding the universe. And gay marriage, yeah.
Gay marriage.
Well, I guess gay marriage is part of the universe. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. And yeah, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can become a Patreon member.
That's right.
Which is lovely.
I think it's patreon.com /Sci-gasm podcast.
Yeah, and if you're listening to us on Podbean, you can actually find out. You can actually click a become a Patreon show.
I think that's patreon.podbean.com /Sci-gasm podcast.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a whole bunch of stuff. But if you're listening on Podbean, you can actually click the link and everything like that. And so would like to thank the following people.
If you do become a patron, you get exclusive content too.
You do get exclusive content. You can join the Sci-holes, which is pretty cool. It's like, it's not as slutty as it sounds, but we can make it slutty if you want. You guys are paying the fee. So we've got Frank Aleknowitz, Sarah Talk Podcast, who we mentioned in this episode.
She gets 2 shout-outs. Lucky Sarah.
Yeah. She's lovely. She deserves it. Cheese Dick McDouche Nozzle Esquire. That's fine. That's incredible, isn't it? It's incredible. Cameo Winnets, Craig Porter. And I'd also like to thank, I'm going to call out some other people's names as well who have been members from the get-go. We've got Adam Smith, Igmar Kofler.
I know Igmar.
Kofler, yep. And Phil Ord.
I'd also like a sneaky shout-out to Lou Costin as well.
Yeah, awesome. So, guys, thank you so much for your support. We love you guys so much. And you can become a Patreon just by going to the page. There's plenty of links and stuff like that. It helps us just get the equipment, all this stuff costs money, and that's the thing. People think we just upload an episode, that's it. No, you have to rent a space on the internet, then you have to upload it from there, and then you got to pay a company to distribute it, and
have the hardware and the
software, all that type of stuff. So we really appreciate all the help we get, and thank you so much to all those people who are helping us out at the moment.
Tune in next week.
Bye.